like to offer a couple of reflections on this. We've been calling this Alpha in a Catholic context. I've been thinking of it more as Alpha in a Catholic voice. And so I know that there's probably some expectation of saying, okay, we haven't heard much about Mary. We haven't heard much about the saints. We haven't heard anything really about the sacraments, except for maybe baptism. We haven't heard anything about the magisterium, about bishops and pope, and we've heard about the pope. So why haven't we heard about this? Because it's Alpha. Alpha is like to be followed by beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, all the way up to omega, which is the second coming, okay? There are some ways that somebody who is evangelical or Protestant would say some things differently. And in fact, in Nicky Gumbel's, he would say some things differently than a Catholic would. And so I've been saying them the way a Catholic would. But I'm really sticking very, very close to the script. Why? Because it's Alpha. And one of the difficulties of us as Catholics is that we've got 2,000 years of tradition, of teaching, of learning, of liturgy, there's so much richness that we can't help but firing off the fire hose when we try to explain the faith, right? You say, okay, here, take a drink, Whereas Alpha is like giving a cup of water. And so that is just our propensity, and it's understandable. But what Alpha is really for is to reach the people who are furthest away from Jesus. That's ultimately what Alpha is. It's renewing a lot of parishes right now, but it's really so that we can now take this and bring it to the people furthest away. And it's a marvelous tool in that respect. Why? Because it's a cup of water. It's almost like pre-evangelizing in a certain sense, but it's giving just a little bit. And I just wanted to read something from Pope Francis that I think encourages this. This is from The Joy of the Gospel. This book is about as marked up as my Bible. Pastoral ministry in a missionary style is not obsessed with the disjointed transmission of a multitude of doctrines to be insistently imposed. When we adopt a pastoral goal and a missionary style, which would actually reach everyone without exception or exclusion, the message has to concentrate on the essentials, on what is most beautiful, most grand, most appealing, at the same time, the most necessary. The message is simplified while losing none of its depth and truth, and thus becomes all the more forceful and convincing. So this really reflects the genius of something like Alpha, is that we're giving really just the essentials. And it's not Protestant essentials, it's not even Orthodox essentials, it's not Catholic essentials, it's the essentials of being a Christian. And I'll say more about the church, but even there, it's going to be very, very light, a very light touch. Because when we bring people in, there's just so much more. So we need to bring them in the shallow end so that they can go to the deep end eventually. So I just wanted to lay that out, because I suspect there's been some wondering about this. Well, what's so Catholic about this? This has been thoroughly Catholic. I'm a bishop, So, and my boss would have something to say if it wasn't, right? So anyways, that I just wanted to offer that for your thought, and this was a good time to offer it after this talk, because we're learning how do we tell others, especially when we've got so much to give. Okay? God bless you. Have a great conversation.